bell icon. Let's dive into it. Jeff Hafley, it's just now being reported. Tom Pelissero tweeted it out. Pelissero the Arrow says the Titans, Steelers, and Raiders also pursued Jeff Hafley, but it's the Dolphins who went out the new man in Miami. Obviously, quote tweeting himself from 35 minutes ago saying the Dolphins are closing in on a deal to hire Jeff Hafley as their head coach. Sources tell the insiders. Now, no big surprise here. We kind of talked about it already, right? Obviously, Jon-Eric Sullivan, front office executive, former, I think he was still scouting for the Packers, as a matter of fact, gets the general manager job in Miami. One of his top candidates was going to be Jeff Hafley. I think they kind of laid off a little bit to see what happened with Matt LaFleur, because there were some rumblings out there, some reports that, hey, maybe Matt LaFleur won't be the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. So I think Jon-Eric Sullivan was kind of laying back a little bit, keeping his eye on that from a distance. And then, of course, when the reports come out that they met for dinner, they being Ed Policy, Brian Gutekunst, and Matt LaFleur, the deal was pretty much done. And it sounded like literally there was no waffling at all. All of the reports that were kind of, I don't know if he'll be back, I don't know if he will or not, seemed like that was pretty much just fodder. So with that being said, at least that's what Ed Policy and they're saying on the surface through the reports coming out now was no, there was never any doubt Matt LaFleur was going to be the head coach. So obviously the Miami Dolphins, they move on. They go and get Jeff Hafley as their new head coach. Now, listen, there's a number of different things that could trickle down from this whole event here. Jeff Hafley will most likely take some of his staff with him from Green Bay. And if you're going, no, he can't do that. Yes, he can. All right. If you're new here, yes, he can. What the Packers can essentially do is they can pretty much block lateral moves. Okay. So if the Packers want to keep either DeMarcus Covington or Derek Ansley as their defensive coordinator, all Matt LaFleur has to do is promote them, and Jeff Hafley can't take them, okay, as his DC. Now, it's still kind of a little bit of blurred lines there with assistant head coach, whether or not that makes it not a lateral move. So if that is a rule, and again, if anybody can answer that question for me, let me know in the comments. I still haven't gotten a direct answer on that. If he decides to make his defensive coordinator, whichever one of those two he would like to choose, his assistant head coach, and that rule is true, then what we would have to do is maybe demote or fire Rich Bisaccia and make whichever one we wanted to keep our assistant head coach. If indeed that's the rule, again, you guys do your own research. I have not heard of anybody being blocked by being promoted to assistant head coach, but I have also heard in the past that is a loophole. Now, sometimes coaches won't block a coach on their staff to go join another staff. Right? It may be something that Matt LaFleur says, you know what, Haf, if that's who you want and that's where he wants to be, yeah, we're going to allow it. Because, it's not really operating in too good of faith if you block someone from getting a job that they want. I can't imagine you're going to get their best effort when they return to the team, right? So there's a little bit of that goes into effect. I imagine a DC would not want to pack his family up and move, although maybe somebody wants to go to Miami, right? But with that being said, that's kind of the choices as it sits right now. Now, I want to talk about Jeff Hafley's defense. What are we losing here? Because we know he had a phenomenal year last year. And if you watch the last few games of this defense, granted, it was without Micah Parsons, it was without Devontae White. You lost Edgerrin Cooper in the second half against the Bears, and the wheels came off. 25 fourth quarter points. All that comes into effect. We were pretty vocal on this particular program saying, hey, listen, Jeff Hafley probably going to crush the interview. All that might get thrown to the side if he goes down there, kills the interview, kills the virtual interview, which he did, got a second interview, probably crushed the in-person second interview, and lo and behold, here he is hired. So let's talk about what this defense did before we get into the potential candidates, okay? So even though all of that kind of struggled down the stretch there with the defense, right, the scoring defense, let's start there, points per play allowed, opponents' points per play, okay? Green Bay ended up finishing 10th in the league at .344. Now, over the last 3 games, it was .409. If you were to take that number and compare it to the 2025 numbers, that means in the last 3 games, they probably would have ranked somewhere in the 24th spot. Not great, right? But again, even with that bad number, the overall 2025 average was .344, which makes them the 10th best scoring defense in the league. And as we said, they were really, really banged up down the stretch. Now let's talk passing. Let's talk total defense. Okay. Opponent yards per play. Green Bay came in the number, actually tied for the 7th best defense at 5 yards per play allowed. The only defenses that were better than them were the New Orleans Saints, the Cleveland Browns, the Minnesota Vikings, Houston Texans, Denver Broncos, and Seattle Seahawks. Those three teams right there, guys, Seattle, Denver, Houston, when we talk about potential candidates, I'm going to list a few coaches from that staff that maybe you haven't heard of that might be up-and-comers. Those defenses dominated. If you don't believe me, go back and watch the tape of what Seattle did to San Francisco the other night. It was unbelievable. Just how fast, how physical, how aggressive, how disciplined, everything. Man, that Seattle defense is humming. They had the best defense in the league in terms of yards per play allowed. Again, Green Bay finished tied for 7th, so solid top 10 in yardage. Let's go now to passing defense. Opponent yards per pass attempt. Green Bay finishes the year tied for 9th with Philadelphia at 6.1. Again, Seattle led the league, Denver 2nd, Houston 3rd in those respective statistical categories. So again, scoring defense, top 10. And spot the struggles here lately with all the injuries. Scoring defense, top 10. Total yardage, yards per play allowed, top 10. Passing defense, top 10. Let's talk about running defense. Let's see how bad it may or may not have fallen off down the stretch. We'll go opponent yards per rush attempt. And Green Bay landed in the number 11 spot at 4.2 yards per rush attempt allowed. Okay, they were right behind New England, just outside of the top 10. Now, over the last 3 games, we were giving up 4.8 yards per rush attempt, and that would have put us on average for the year in the 27th spot. That's how bad they played down the stretch. I wanted to kind of lay that out there as a foundation because, listen, there's some people that watched the defense down the stretch and said, oh, this defense is horrible. Who would want Jeff Hafley? There's people like, our normal viewers in here. We've watched Jeff Hafley real close for the last 2 seasons, and you know how good of a coach he is, right? So when you take that into account, what he's done in the past, I think he is still a top candidate. Now, he has a little bit of college head coaching experience. I think that comes with a little bit of merit, a little bit of value there as well. And the fact that you listen to him in press conferences, head coaches in today's football, they're kind of PR guys, to be honest with you. Like they need to have that PR effect to them. I think he'll be awesome as a head coach. However, we've seen this no matter what coach has gotten hired in Green Bay. When Mike McCarthy came in, he was great with the media, crushed it. By the end of it, he was grouchy as hell. I think we would all agree. Matt LaFleur came up. Oh, he was the darling. He was kind of like Hafley. It's like, man, this guy, it's a good press conference. This guy's youthful. He's engaging. Now, Matt, we get him all the time, what we call Tupac LaFleur, right? He comes out there and he just kind of guns a-blazing. He's crabby now. He's a grouch. Don't be surprised if that happens with Jeff Hafley too. It happens with every head coach. They come in, it's a newness of spirit, the honeymoon phase, everything's all good. The expectations are low. You're typically taking over for a team that had to fire their head coach, so maybe they're not expecting you to do anything right out of the gate. And then you get 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 years into the tenure, and what happens? Everybody kind of, starts to descend upon you a little bit. Maybe you missed the playoffs 1 or 2 years. All of a sudden, the hot seat rumors start to get spoken about. There were several Green Bay Packer beat writers, and I won't mention the names. And listen, they're just doing their job. They're giving their opinion. But they were saying, if it were me, I would move on from Matt LaFleur. Well, only 20% of the fan base agreed with him, according to all the polls that we've done, right? No more than 20%, to be honest with you. There were some cases it was like 15% that thought Matt LaFleur should be fired. Well, you had these pieces that were written by media members going, yeah, they need to move on. They need to move on. Well, guess what? They got to go back in that room with Matt LaFleur and do their job. That can get a little awkward, to be honest with you. So again, Jeff Hafley is the new head coach with the Miami Dolphins. I'm kind of excited to see what happens with Malik Willis now. How cool would it be listen, I want Malik Willis back. Don't get me wrong. But if Malik Willis ends up signing with the Dolphins and going down there with Hafley, and maybe who knows, man? Maybe Romeo Doubs signs down there in free agency. How cool would it be to see some of the players that we don't need, that we feel like are going to be progress stoppers or aren't worth the money, to go to Miami? I'm going to be kind of keeping my eye on the Miami Dolphins, especially if Malik Willis goes down. I'm going to be kind of a closet Miami Dolphins fan, to be honest with you. It's going to be really, really fun. So again, that's the news. That's the breaking news. Jeff Hafley to the Miami Dolphins. It's pretty much officially official now. I'm sure they're going to have a press conference and all that stuff, but these are multiple reports. Diana Rossini, Tom Pelissero, NFL Network outside of Tom Pelissero was reporting it. So this is pretty much a done deal. So Jeff Hafley, is your new Miami Dolphins head coach. If you guys are watching this video back later, maybe you're Dolphin fans, all right? Maybe you're Packers fans. Let us know what you think about Jeff Hafley and the hire in Miami. I know for us Packer fans, it didn't catch us off guard, really. It was one of those things that we were kind of holding out hope that maybe they liked one of the candidates for one of the teams that got eliminated a little bit more. So maybe they would go after one of them, and we somehow, some way sneak Hafley back in the building. The betting odds were saying it was Miami or nobody, essentially, right? That was the only one where he was leading in the betting odds to get that job. But if you are a Dolphins fan watching this, you got one hell of a coach. And I think I speak for most Packer fans, maybe not all. But as long as you're not playing the Packers, we'll probably be kind of rooting for you because Jeff Hafley did some amazing things in Green Bay. But let us know in the comments what you think about the hire. Hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you know when we go live in the future.